I think that everyone wants more confidence and higher self-esteem. And I know that I personally used to think about self-esteem as the pinnacle. If you had high self-esteem, you were going to get everything you wanted in your life. And I have since reversed on that position because I've seen that actually high self-esteem, when it becomes the focus, can be detrimental. And it absolutely has been to me. So I want to share with you in this video a mindset that not only incorporates self-esteem, but I think supersedes it and is quite frankly more important that you can incorporate. In order to get there, I kind of have to talk about what self-esteem is and how it differs from regular confidence. So in order to do this, think of a scenario where you are approaching someone. Now, this can be someone that you're interested in romantically. It could simply be you're standing at a party, there's somebody next to you, you'd like to talk to them, but that moment of anxiety kicks in. The person who lacks confidence, their mindset is, I will be kind to myself as long as this situation goes well. And I don't think it's going to go well. So in the scenario where they do finally muster up the courage, their mental track is, you don't have anything interesting to say. They're probably not wanting to talk to you. Oh my God, that was dumb. What will you say next? Don't say that. That's stupid. And of course, because they're thinking that, they behave that, and the interaction goes poorly. The cycle continues. The person that has confidence actually has the same exact mindset, which is, I will be kind to myself as long as this goes well. The difference is that they have practiced enough times that they think it's going to go well. So maybe they've watched the channel, they know what they're going to say to begin with, they have some things that will revive conversation if it goes stale, and because of that, they feel good, they walk up with a smile on their face, and typically the interaction goes well, and that cycle continues. But, of course, it doesn't always. And when it does, the person who lacks or just has confidence beats themselves up, which is where we move to self-esteem. And this is what I thought was everything. Self-esteem isn't concerned with necessarily the outcome. It's concerned with the process. The person with self-esteem says, I will be kind to myself simply by living up to my own principles and values. And if you're like me, your principles are authenticity, honesty, doing your best. So as soon as they move to approach that individual, they have already won. They're living up to their values. They're trying their best. And when they arrive there, whether or not they know what to say, they feel great. It radiates from them, and that interaction tends to go well. That's why self-esteem is so powerful. Now, it's been amazing, right? This is a level for me that changed my life. This took me from in a job that I didn't like to pursuing something that I was truly passionate about. It had me traveling the world with my best friends. It keeps me involved in activities that, quite frankly, I don't have a ton of natural talent in, like music, and I do it because I love it, right? It's not about being really good. It's about the process and the enjoyment that I get. But there's an issue with self-esteem, and I've encountered it firsthand. It's that sometimes we do not live up to our values, right? We don't walk up to that person. We don't do what we should. We're not honest. We're not authentic. We don't try our best. And in these situations, what I would do is beat myself up. Man, you let yourself down, right? You diminished your self-esteem there. You're not living up to your own values. You got to do better next time. You have done better in the past, but chop, chop. Let's make it happen. Now, I thought that this was great because this is kind of the stick that motivated me to achieve all of the things that I've achieved in my life. But I started reading a little bit outside my circle and came across a concept that was very different and that I resisted. And it was this concept of self-love, unconditionally. The difference being that where self-esteem said, I have to live up to my values, self-love was just because, for no reason at all. You give yourself this feeling of love. And I resisted it because I thought, wait a second. All of the things that I've done in my life, I did because I was nervous that if I didn't do it, I was kind of going to have to beat myself up, right? I needed that punishment in order to drive action. We all know that pain is probably the biggest motivator to change. So if I'm just heaping self-love on myself, maybe I won't approach that person. Maybe I won't move to the next level. Maybe I'll just sit and stagnate and heap self-love on myself and feel great, but accomplish and do nothing, give nothing back to the world. That was what I feared, but I said, okay, I'm going to experiment with it. If that's where I do wind up, I can always switch back. And I have to say, it was amazing how things changed. Far from blocking me from growth, I actually experienced a deeper level of honesty, of authenticity, of trying my best. And I want to give you some, for instance, examples because it's not exactly intuitive. So as I started being more self-loving, if you will, what I realized is that there are certainly scenarios in which I don't do that approach thing that we discussed earlier. Now, to give myself credit, I do it probably more than 99.99% of people on the planet. I'm very outgoing, I'm very friendly. When I see someone that I'm interested in, I oftentimes do that. But there are certainly times when I don't. And what I realized is that because I pin my self-esteem and I ride on that of doing what I know I should, when I don't do it, which is inevitable, I sometimes hide the reason for myself. So for instance, I was in the gym, Sam Harris, who is a guy, if you don't know him, he's an intellectual, I look up to him, was walking down the stairs. And rather than say anything, hey Sam, I like your book, hey Sam, I've got this channel, would you like to participate, anything, hey, I kept quiet. And as I did that, I kind of just justified it in my head, which is, I'm not a super fan of his, and he is busy, he's got his headphones in or whatever, didn't want to do it. As I came back to a place of self-love, what I first realized was, one, in that moment, of course, if I was in a self-loving place, I would have just said, hey man, totally random, know you're busy, I love your book, it's amazing, and let him go on with his day. Or maybe I would have said, by the way, I have this channel, we're doing a breakdown, would you like to participate? Who knows? But I would have been more authentic and more honest. And that happens in many other situations. Another thing that I noticed about myself as I started this self-love that didn't occur to me when I was just on this level of self-esteem is that I have pervasive validation-seeking behaviors. And they're subtle, but they're there. So for instance, I noticed I was out in a public place, I was talking, cracking jokes, and I'll perhaps crack a joke with a dark sense of humor. And some of the people will laugh, but there'll be one person who doesn't. And what I've noticed as I come from a place of self-love and self-acceptance is that I have a tendency to focus on that person rather than the other people who are laughing. Meaning that I will spend more time almost trying to win that person over, to show them that I'm a good guy, rather than just hanging out with the people that I click with, that I enjoy with, that like my sense of humor. And I'm not saying this person is necessarily a killjoy, but I will just be subtly drawn to them so that the people in the room can have a high opinion of me. And this didn't occur to me, this is important, at the level of self-esteem. And I think the reason is because I pinned my self-esteem on authenticity and honesty. When there was little breaches of that, I could correct them. But this is a pervasive, big breach that invades and creeps into so many of my interactions in tiny little ways. And to accept that on a fundamental level there's an inauthenticity would crush my self-esteem. That is not living up to my value. But when I come from a place of self-love and self-acceptance instead, I'm able to see that. And now I can adjust. And I see it again. I've been dating more. And one of the things that I notice is I have a tendency to feel guilty when the date doesn't go well. And I feel this tendency to force a second date so that that other person, I don't know, feels good or whatever, rather than simply saying, not a match, nothing wrong with them, nothing wrong with me, let's move on and not waste any more of either of our time. There's this sense of guilt in there. And again, that's not authentic, so I didn't, I think, address it from a level of self-esteem. I tell you these examples to say that I thought that coming from a place of self-love was going to lead to stultified growth, and it couldn't be more the opposite. I have felt more myself, more honest, more authentic, more like I'm trying my honest best from this place of self-love than from this place of as long as I live up to my values. Now let me be clear. Self-esteem is awesome. Absolutely have values and principles and things that are important to you, right? I needed that phase in order to drive to those things so I could clarify that yes, authenticity does matter to me. Confidence, know your strategies, right? It's cool to have domain level confidence. What I'm suggesting is that you implement at the base of all of this level of bedrock self-love, which is unconditional. For no reason at all. I don't care how badly you fail. I don't care if you don't try. That level of self-love will not only make you just feel nice, it will actually push you to be your best self in ways that are truly, and have been for me, mind-boggling. Now, this video is already getting long. I want to give you things that you can do to begin to implement this. So I have 2 recommendations and 1 announcement. The first is to say that there are 2 audiobooks I want to recommend, courtesy of our sponsor, Audible, who sponsored this video. Those are Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Naval Ravikant, and 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. And if you've not read either of them, I will tell you a bit about them in just a second, but you can access them via Audible if you sign up with our link below, which is audible.com/charisma. With that, you get a free 30-day trial, and you can choose to listen to one of those audiobooks for free if this is your first time signing up. Audible also has an unbeatable selection of audiobooks, and it makes it super easy to have more books in your life, which I think is incredibly important. It's especially nice because if you have a commute to work where you're driving and you're in public transportation, you can still feed your brain with these really good gems. So Naval Ravikant's book, excellent primer for self-love. Nathaniel Branden's 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, even though it has self-esteem in the title, I think is closer to, it borders on self-love, especially the parts about self-acceptance and self-consciousness. And those have fantastic exercises for cultivating this and developing it inside of you. So if you want to sign up for Audible, you'll get access to a huge library of audiobooks, and you get that free one with a 30-day trial. So I highly recommend checking out one of those too. In addition, this is the announcement. I've been working probably for the last year, nearly and a half, on a course called Emotional Mastery. I am super excited for it, and I'm going to launch it next week. And it really does deal in part with this concept of self-love. It's a tough course to describe because really, in the same way that I didn't see these issues prior to doing these exercises, that's kind of what the course is about. There's things in our life that we don't necessarily recognize are holding us back. And when we do see them, it's shocking. They've been there all along, but they surprise us. And when we remove them, there's a level of happiness and joy and freedom and achievement that flows from that is just, it was tough to conceive of beforehand. So that's really, as difficult as it described, what the course is about. If you're interested in it and want to know more, you can sign up for our email list where we'll be releasing that course next week. So I hope that you have found this video interesting. Let me know. This is the kind of stuff that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And of course, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a new breakdown coming out on Thursday, and then some more in this vein probably next Monday. So I hope you like this, and I'll see you in the next one.